Hey guys, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be filming my July wrap-up. In the month of July, I read a total of 11 books, which I'm super excited about. I would like to thank the booktubeathon for encouraging me to read more. I read 5 audiobooks and 6 novels, and yeah, this is the most I've read in a really long time, so I'm super pumped about it, and we got a lot of content to get through, so let's go. First book that I read this month was This Song Will Save Your Life by Lelia Sales, and I actually listened to the audiobook, and I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I was kind of disappointed though because I really liked Tonight the Streets Are Ours by Lelia Sales, and so I was expecting a lot more from this. But this book is basically about a girl named Elise who is like a loner. She discovers this underground DJ nightclub place where she finds her passion for DJing. I really enjoyed the musical and DJ aspect of this book. I thought that was really fun to read about. However, I just found Elise to be like she was so relatable at times, and then at other times she was so snobby and just selfish and immature. I had a love-hate relationship with Elise. I didn't really care for Elise's relationship with her love interest Char. I thought they were kind of And also a warning, this book does have triggers for cutting and for suicide. It's a very dark, intense type of book. I really did love this quote where she says, "Don't be special." That's what I would say to my younger self if I could pinpoint the moment that I went astray. But there was no moment. I was always astray. And I just really enjoyed this because I can relate to Elise a lot on the sense, in the sense that she's kind of like a loner when it comes to her school, and she doesn't have a lot of friends, and the way she just feels kind of alone sometimes. I really related to that aspect of her, but then she gets also very snobby. She wants to be friends with the popular kids only. She doesn't want to be friends with other kids who are kind of loners too. She's just very snobby in that way, and she's snobby about her music taste and just things like that. So this book was just okay. I was expecting more. Ugh. The second book I read this month was One True Loves by Jenkins Reid, and it was the first book I've ever read from her, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. This book is about a girl named Emma who gets married to Jesse, and they're kind of high school sweethearts. They've always been together their whole lives type of thing, and then on the day before their 1-year anniversary, Jesse is killed in this freak helicopter accident. Emma is obviously devastated, and it's the worst. Years pass, and Emma grieves a lot over time, and then she finally meets this boy named Sam who she falls in love with, and Sam is actually another guy from her past that had a crush on her in high school. Her and Sam get engaged and everything seems awesome, and then Emma gets a phone call saying that Jesse survived the helicopter crash, that they all thought he died, and that he's coming home. Obviously, this book is a crazy emotional roller coaster. It's a crazy passionate love triangle, and I really love when a love triangle can be written so well. Even I am changing my opinion all the time of who I want her with. They're both so good to her and so perfect for her. And Jesse is obviously her love interest from high school, and he's so sweet. He's her first love, and they're so passionate with each other, and it's so cute. But then Sam is so patient, and he's completely opposite from Jesse, but in a good way, I think. I love the way that this book talks about the way that grief can change a person, and love can change a person, and that you can be a different person depending on who you're in a relationship with. It's not just about picking the guy that's right for you, whatever. It's about picking the person that you want to be when you're with them. You know what I'm saying? I only knocked off a star because I didn't really like the pacing of it. Sometimes it felt like it was rushing really fast. It would rush through years or months at a time, and then it would drag on for a while and just be a couple days, and then it would rush back again. So the pacing was a little weird. I would have liked to see more of Emma and Jesse's background. We do get some flashbacks, but I would have liked to see a lot more of their build up to their marriage. Yeah, I definitely cried a million times while I was reading this, and I was so torn over Sam and Jesse, and I really do love them both. They were both amazing, and I would definitely recommend it to fans of Colleen Hoover or just amazing romance authors. This was a really great book. I can't wait to read more from this author. The third book I read this month was My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warriga. Listened to the audiobook for this one as well, and I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I actually did really enjoy this. This book follows a girl named Azel and a guy named Roman, and they are both suicidal teenagers who decide that they want to commit suicide together. They form a suicide pact because they decide they don't want to do it alone. They don't want to do this final thing in their life alone. April 7th, they're both going to commit suicide together. This book was really powerful. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, like, I actually really started to like Azel and Roman as characters, like, even though they started off kind of, like, dull and just kind of, like, depressed, you know, but after they get to know each other and spend more time together, they just come to life. I really adore Roman as a character. After you learn about all the things he's been through and the reason kind of, like, why he wants to kill himself, I just, like, my heart just was, like, so heavy, and I loved his character so much. It kind of reminded me of All the Bright Places by Jennifer Neven, but kind of, like, better because I didn't really like All the Bright Places. Like, Azel's character is really obsessed with physics. If energy cannot disappear but can only be transferred, then what happens to our energy when we die? And it just really got me thinking. Like, it was very thought-provoking, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really loved their scenes at the zoo and the camping trips and the story behind, like, Azel's dad who's in prison. It was very interesting, and I love the way Azel referred to her depression as her, like, black slug, and it kind of reminded me of the way Dexter in the TV show Dexter, how he refers to his, like, dark side as his, like, dark passenger. Ending was very intense and beautiful and emotional, and I kind of wish it was just a little bit longer. It just kind of ended a little abruptly, but overall I loved this book. I just knocked off a 1.5 stars because it was a little predictable, and I think it could have been a little bit better, like, just give it that extra something that would make me, like, love it, you know, but it was really good, and I wasn't expecting it to be that good. Fourth book I read this month was Love and Rewind by Tally Alexander. I ended up giving this book 1 out of 5 stars. Oh my god. The author was nice enough to send me a copy of this book. I have to be honest with the way I'm feeling, of course. I'm always gonna be honest. This book is a new adult romance, and to be honest, it has, like, every cliche that I don't like in new adult romance novels. It's about this girl who's 18 years old and this guy who's, like, in his 30s, and she's a virgin, of course. He's, like, the successful businessman, and, like, nobody's ever noticed her in her whole life until this 30-year-old businessman who sleeps around a lot notices her and thinks she's, like, the most special, amazing, perfect thing on this planet. And, like, the first thing he says to her is, like, so inappropriate. Like, calls her little girl, which is so creepy. I don't really mind age gaps that much. Like, I don't really care. But, like, when he calls her little girl, it's just, like, a constant reminder of the age gap. The insta-love was insane. It's like he's never been in love before in his life, but of course within, like, 2 days he's falling head over heels in love with this girl, and he's like, I don't ever want to be with anybody else. It was just, like, so cringeworthy. The fifth book I read this month was The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and I ended up giving this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I freaking loved it. It's definitely one of the best new adult books I've read. This book follows a hockey player named Garrett and this girl named Hannah, who's actually, like, Hannah was a really awesome protagonist, and she's actually a rape victim, and, like, that's not a spoiler or anything. It talks about it on the first page of the book, because she actually, in the beginning of the book, she uses Garrett to, like, get closer to another guy that she wants. Garrett is just this guy who needs a study partner because he's, like, failing this class and he wants to be on the hockey team, obviously. That's, like, all their relationship is study partners, and then she starts using him to make this other guy jealous, and it's, like, so funny. They just kind of, like, subconsciously, naturally start to, like, fall for each other, and it's just really, really cute and so realistic and, like, amazing and beautiful. They would binge watch Breaking Bad together, which I think is just so awesome because Breaking Bad is, like, my favorite show of all time. See them having scenes of, like, binge watching it together, I thought it was so cute. And, like, with Garrett's backstory with his dad and how his dad is, like, crazy about his hockey and all that stuff, like, it was really intense. The way the romance and the humor is tied together so well, it just flows so nicely. Like, Elle Kennedy has such amazing writing. Like, I freaking loved the book Him that she wrote with Serena Bowen. Loved it. I can't wait to read more from this series. I love hockey players and I love romance. And the sixth book I read this month was Dumplin by Julie Murphy, and I listened to the audiobook for this, and I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't really care for this one. It was like I liked it in the beginning and then it just got progressively worse. This book follows Willow Dean, who is Dumplin, and she's a self-proclaimed fat girl who decides to enter the town's beauty pageant. But really, I think this book is just about girls' love triangle with these two guys named Bo and Mitch. I wasn't a huge fan of the love triangle, to be honest. Like, my main problem with this book was Willow Dean as a character. She was very selfish and just, like, insecure in the way she would treat the people around her because of her own insecurities. It just was really selfish and annoying. I felt bad most of the time for the other characters. The narrator in the audiobook has a southern accent, and so it was, like, really cute. Like, I loved hearing the southern accent, hearing them talk about the pageant and stuff, because I used to have a guilty pleasure watching Toddlers and Tiaras, like, don't even judge me, but in high school, I, like, loved that show. It was nice to, like, see a book about a pageant. Like, I've never really seen anything like that before, but overall, this story was just really forgettable. The next book I read this month was Thanks for the Trouble by Tommy Wallich, and this is the first book I read for the booktubeathon this year, and I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This book is about a boy named Parker, who's a Latino mute thief, and he meets Zelda, who is a silver-haired girl who is immortal, but she wants to commit suicide. Yeah, I know, it sounds so crazy, but I loved the diversity in this book. Like, Parker is a Latino, and he's mute, like, he can't talk, and he's a thief. He's like Flynn Rider, basically, but, like, Latino. Zelda is this girl, she has silver hair, and she has lived over, like, 100 years, and she wants to commit suicide. Crazy and random and so beautiful. Like, this book is written so beautifully. Like, I really connected with Parker as a main character. I loved him. Parker's, like, humor and charm is so perfect, even though he can't even talk. Like, just the way he comes across with his little writing. He writes in his journals, and, like, that's how he talks to people. He'll write it down, or he'll, like, send a text, like, that way, and that's how he talks to people. And I just wanted to, like, give him a hug. He's just so sweet and cute and cuddly, and I love him. The San Francisco setting in this book, like, she wants to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. That's how she wants to go out, and it's, like, I love the San Francisco, California atmosphere in this book. I also loved Zelda's, like, views on the world, because, you know, she's, like, lived more than 100 years, so obviously she's very wise, and just the way she would talk about the world and people and herself and love, it was very inspirational, and I really enjoyed that. I also loved this metaphor that she was talking about when she's, like, talking about what it's like to age. She compares it like a metaphor with this art gallery painting, and she says how when you're born, you're standing closest to the canvas, and everything looks so big and overwhelming. Then, as you grow older and gain perspective, you step back and see the bigger picture. But then, as you keep growing hundreds of years, you get further and further away from the canvas, and it loses its magic. And, like, that's the way she sees her life, and, like, that's why she wants to commit suicide, because she talks about how the whole magic of life is, like, experiencing things for the first time, and how after you do things so many times over the course of 100 years, it starts to, like, lose its magic, and I was impressed by that. This is just a really thoughtful, beautiful story, and it kind of reminded me a lot of Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock by Matthew Quick, in the way that it was very thought-provoking, and the way it kind of talks about how we lose the ability to be happy as we age. Like, that's something I think about a lot. Very thought-provoking and very deep, and just left me thinking about this book for days after I finished it. What makes a life meaningful, you know? It was just very, very good. Very good. Definitely recommend it. One of my new all-time favorite books. I loved it. The 8th book I read this month was Dreamology by Lucy Keating, and unfortunately I only gave this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. This book follows a girl named Alice who dreams about this boy named Max her whole life, and then suddenly she starts seeing him in her real life, and she don't know why, and shit be crazy. I feel like maybe I would have enjoyed this book a lot more if I was like 14, but I didn't really care for the romance between Alice and Max in real life or in the dreams. Like, in the dreams it all felt way too, like, cheesy and, like, Nicholas Sparks for me, and then in real life Max was so, like, hot and cold with her, and just, like, I really didn't like Max as a character at all, really. And the fact that Max has a girlfriend in real life, and, like, Alice just kind of, like, chooses to ignore that, really bothers me, because it's like, dude, you're being a homewrecker. Like, stop trying to, like, wreck their relationship just because you think you know Max because you see him in your dreams. Like, it was just kind of, like, childish. I don't know, read at your own risk. It was definitely disappointing. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time, so Right, the 9th book I read this month was The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. I listened to the audiobook for this, and unfortunately I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. I don't really see the hype with this book. It's like a contemporary / fantasy book. It follows this guy named Mike who's in love with this girl named Hannah, and they live in this paranormal town, but, like, they're completely normal. Some of the kids have superpowers, and I guess they're called indie kids, but it never really dives deeper into that. It felt like you're watching a fantasy movie, but, like, from 2 characters who don't have any powers or anything, so they're just, like, regular people, and it was just kind of, like, boring. I don't really know what was going on throughout the course of the book. It was like we were getting little glimpses of paranormal things happening, but then it never went further into detail with that. I wasn't impressed with the overall storyline, which is a shame because I love Patrick Ness. But the 10th book I read this month was The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And this book follows a girl named Andy who's a politician's daughter, and she decides to take a summer job walking dogs. Throughout the summer, she finds herself falling in love for the first time. I really love this book. I love Morgan Matson's writing so much. Love interest in this book is named Clark. He's this, like, nerdy fantasy author, and he's published, and he's, like, he wears glasses, and he's, like, super cute, and he's, like, basically, like, my dream guy. Like, oh my god, can you Yeah, Clark was my favorite, obviously, character in the whole book. He was so perfect. He's always wearing t-shirts that are like fandom t-shirts, like for Star Wars and James Bond and, you know, superheroes and stuff like that, which was so cool. Andy's group of friends in this book was also really awesome. I really liked Toby the most out of all of her friends, and I thought she was the most relatable, and I would actually love to see a full book from Toby's perspective in the future. I think that'd be really cool because I just related to her a lot in the sense that she felt kind of left out of her friend group at times, and I love that characters from one of Morgan Matson's other books make an appearance in this. That's like my favorite thing ever when that happens, and I was so excited. I was like giddy when it happened. The only reason I knocked off a star from this book is because I do feel like it's a little bit too long. I mean, it is over 500 pages, and it doesn't really get interesting until about 100 pages in, so I mean, this book could have easily been cut down by 100 pages. Andy as a main character was just kind of hard to relate to for me. She would talk about how she doesn't like reading books, and like it took her so long to like actually read Clark's freaking book, which was so annoying because I'm like, dude, you're like love interest is a published author, like why aren't you reading his books? Like I don't care if you don't like reading books, like read his damn book, you know, show him support. I had a couple of things with Andy that kind of bothered me as a main character. She wasn't as awesome as Morgan Matson's other female lead characters. Yeah, this is definitely my second favorite Morgan Matson book. Since You Be Gone is still my favorite, but oh my god, Clark is everything. He's definitely one of my new favorite male characters ever, and he's so perfect. I love him. And the last book I read this month was Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I loved it so much. This book follows a guy named Solomon who's an agoraphobic, and he's 16 years old, and he suffers from really bad anxiety, and he hasn't left his house in 3 years. And it's told in third person, alternating perspectives from Solomon and then this girl named Lisa who is writing a college essay about psychology, and she wants to like base her essay off of Solomon and his behavior, so she decides to start hanging out with Solomon in order to like study him. I adored Solomon. I mean, I felt so bad for him, you know, because he just has so much anxiety, and like in that sense he was really relatable at times. I actually did like that this book was written in third person. I usually don't like when books are written that way, but for this book it definitely worked. Also, Lisa has a boyfriend named Clark. Clark starts to hang out with Solomon too, and then they all become friends with each other, and I really enjoyed all their scenes together. It was so cute to see Solomon finally opening up and like becoming himself. He would start to tell Lisa things that he had never told anyone before, finally coming out of his shell and being a little bit less afraid of the world. 3 characters were so strong, really realistic and amazing. Just loved Solomon. Like, he was definitely the highlight of this book, and I really did like Clark too as Lisa's boyfriend. He wasn't just like a throwaway side character, like he was really awesome, and he was definitely my second favorite character in the book. Really did love the LGBT elements that were brought up in this book, which I also wasn't expecting, and I loved Solomon's growth and development. He grows so much as a character in this book, but not in an unrealistic way either. Lisa really bothered me as a character, and I know she was supposed to and she was intended to, I think, but like she definitely grew a lot and was a lot more mature at the very end. But I mean, she was just kind of selfish, and like I hated the way that she kind of like led Solomon to believe that her intentions were pure and genuine when they weren't. Like, she was writing an essay off of him and studying him without him knowing about it, and so that was kind of sad. Also, the ending did feel a little bit rushed. Like, this book is really short. It's only like 230-ish pages, and I just wanted a little bit more. I loved all these characters so much, and the ending did feel a little abrupt, but the ending did feel very realistic, and I definitely appreciated that. This is my second time reading a John Corey Whaley book, and I really did love it, and his writing is so good, so I definitely highly recommend this one. It's definitely a new all-time favorite of mine, and it was so good. Those are all the books that I've read in the month of July. It's been a crazy reading month. Definitely found a couple new all-time favorites of mine, which was so awesome. I'm like very motivated to read like lately. I think the booktubeathon got me back into the flow, and I just want to read like everything, so we'll see where August takes us. I was also very distracted this month by watching Jane the Virgin, because I was watching that almost like every day, and so I'm surprised I read as much as I did. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.